I forgot to mention that yesterday was the yahrzeit of Baron Cutler, who's based Kislev. I completely forgot to mention that. Also, Yogan Elena, I'll call you through. When Baron Cutler was nifter, his Sat Mereva, who he often disagreed with, was masped him. And he quoted a Rashi to the beginning of Behaloischa, where it talks about Behaloischa's HaNeiros, how Aaron HaKoyin had to light the Neiros. And Rashi says there, Shvach Shal Aaron. What was the biggest praise of Aaron? Shaloi Shina. He did exactly as he was supposed to do. He never deviated from what he was supposed to do. So the Salmon Rebbe says regarding Aaron, yes, we disagreed a lot. But Loi Shina, he always stuck by his opinion and he didn't let himself be influenced and he stuck to his mahalach. And I mean, Pashtus, between the Satmar Rebbe and Baron Kotler, that's what really revived Yiddishkeit in America. Baron Kotler was revived the Litvische Welt, and the Satmar Rebbe revived the Chassidische Welt. And they greatly admired each other. As a matter of fact, the Satmar Rebbe didn't hold all of the Chinuch Atzmoi schools in the Bedina, right? But Baron was the head of Chinuch Atzmoi, so he would send Bochum around every year to raise money for Chinuch Atzmoi. And they would go to Williamsburg, and they would go to the Satmar Rebbe. So we're talking about in the 50s. So the Satmar Rebbe would tell them, ich weiß dich, als ich halt nicht finde Moistes. Aber wenn Rav Aaron Kotler schickt der Schliach, darf man geben. So he would give him, in those days, he gave him $100, which is probably like $1,000 today. So that was the relationship between Satmar Rebbe and Rav Aaron. Interesting enough, the very first Mashgiach in Lakewood was Rav Nosson Wachtfeugel, Zatzal. His yahrzeit is also on Beis Kislev. His yahrzeit was also yesterday, and he lived with Mashiach. He had a suitcase packed ready for Mashiach, and there was a story once where somebody was going to be about Tekeah. He lived in the neighborhood where Nosson Wachtfeugel lived, and he was practicing. He was blowing the shofar. He was practicing, and Rav Nosson came running out with a suitcase, waiting for Mashiach. That's how the story goes with Rav Nosson. Nosson was also very involved in the Lakewood Koil movement. He was very involved in creating Koilim. Today is Gimel Kislev. Today is also a big yahrzeit. Today is the yahrzeit of Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Kalevsky. Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Kalevsky was a Maggid Shir in Baltimore Yeshiva for many, many years, and eventually became the Rosh Yeshiva. So he was the Rebbe of a Rebbe of mine. Rabbi Yitzchak Perlman was his Talmud, and he would always speak so wonderfully about him. He gave a blot year every day. In addition, the Kabbalah Batim blot year. He was Rosh Yeshiva of Baltimore when he died. After Rabbi Ruderman. So I was there at Levaya of Rabbi Ruderman. And by the Levaya, Rabbi Kalevsky spoke. And I remember what he said. He said that when he started as a Rebbe in Baltimore, he was struggling because preparing for his shir took so much of his time that he really didn't have time to do any learning anymore on his own. So he felt like he was stagnating. And he told Rabbi Ruderman, I'm having Chalish Shadas. I'm not able to learn on my own. Just basically the whole day is revolving around my job. And it's too much. So Ruderman told me, the Shiva told me, it says, if your Rebbe is like a Malach Hashem, Oz Yivakesh Torah Mipiu. This was quoted, Oz Yivakesh Torah Mipiu, and this was quoted from the Hakdama of the Sefer HaFlaw. So the Sefer HaFlaw writes, what does it mean? A Malach has only one job, right? A Malach is only given one job. So if you're a Rebbe, if his one job is his only one job, because that's all he's busy with all day, Oz Yivakesh Torah Mipiu. So it's perfect that you're dedicating all of your day to preparing for your shir. At least now, when you're a new Rebbe, you have nothing to worry about. That's exactly what a Rebbe is supposed to be. It's Rav Kalevsky's yahrzeit. It's a big week for yahrzeits this week. On Shabbos is the yahrzeit of the Marsha, and I believe also of Michal Ber Weissmandel, if not Sunday. A lot of interesting yahrzeits coming up. Okay, so let's see. Oh, today is also a very fascinating day. one of the most important svarim we have on the Mefarsha Shas is the Pnei Yeshua. I come out look in the Pnei Yeshua every day. The Pnei Yeshua was a regular balabas, and he had no intention of ever writing a sefer. And he was once there was a horrible explosion in the village that he lived in, and his house collapsed upon him, and he was stuck. He was stuck. He was going to be crushed to death. And he told the Rabbi Shalom, if you get me out of here, I'm going to write a sefer to teach Torah to Klal Yisrael. And somehow he found a way. There was an opening that was revealed to him, and he got out alive. And that's how he wrote the sefer Pnei Yeshua. I don't. He wasn't the Pnei Yeshua. The story sounds better if you don't. What was his last name? Falk. Okay. Zok the Gemara. He probably lived in the 1700s. It was an earlier writing. Okay, so let's see what the Gemara said. So yesterday we were just coming off of Amud Beis. We really should go back to Amud Beis because we were discussing the scenario under which a shoyl would be chayiv or he would be paid if his animal got damaged. So the Gemara ended up saying the case was la'olam. I'm on the second to the bottom line of Yud Gimel Amud Beis. La'olam the aske tura de mashul l'tura de shoyl. So I'm a shoyl. I'm responsible for all of the damages of the animal that I borrow, and the animal that I borrowed damaged my animal. So the halacha is the mashal has to pay the damages of my animal. The mashal, should be able to say, I don't understand. If you're the shoyl, you're responsible for any damage that this animal does. If it would have damaged a third party, you would have to pay, not me. So now that it damaged yourself, pay yourself. When the shoyl accepted upon himself a chrayis for this animal that he borrowed, he only accepted upon himself a chrayis to protect the animal and to return that animal that he borrowed to the owner in good condition. But he never accepted upon himself the liability if this animal damages anything else. Correct the Gemara, if that's how you're going to learn Pshat in this brisa, let's see how this fits into the end of the brisa. This is the case of shoyl. And what happened was that the animal escaped due to an oinus. The yatsav ezika, and the animal caused damage. Potter, it's potter. So it's mashma. Why is it potter? Because of a special oinus. If this occurred during the day, chayiv. And the problem is, are you not saying the case was where he didn't accept upon himself responsibility for any damages that this animal will do? We can always do a little bit of an amendment. And we add, after it says the fact that the shoyl gets paid for damages if the mashal's animal damaged the shoyl's animal. Why? Because he wasn't mekabel achrayis for damages that this borrowed animal would cause. Then you have to stick in a couple of words into the brisa. Im kibel alav shemiras nezakov. But if he was mekabel on himself to watch any damages that this animal will do, then he will be chayiv. Nivritza belayla oisha pertzua listim. If it was an oinis, v'yotza v'zika potter. Now this part would not be speaking about a shoyl, because a shoyl normally is chayiv on oinis as well. But these would have been the other shoymer. If it was yotza v'zika with an oinis, it would be potter. Fragt Gemara, Eini, is that so? V'yatani Rabbi Yosef chatzar hashutfim. What was our question over here? Were the mashil's animal damaged the shoyl's animal in the shoyl's rishus? And what are we saying? That the mashal is going to be chayiv. So let's see what the brisa says. Chatzar hashutfim. What if you have a property that belongs to two people? Vapundik. Pundik is like an inn. If you're staying in a hotel, there's a common area in the hotel. So what happens if damages occurred? So let's break them down. You decided to plant yourself a vegetable patch in the lobby of a hotel. Try it out one day. See what happens to you. But let's focus more on Chatzar HaShutfim. You are Chatzar HaShutfim. You plant yourself a vegetable patch.
It doesn't have to be a bachelor. He left his.
Yeah, no, I'm making a joke. So chatzar shutvim v'apundik chayiv b'hen al shein v'al regel. Someone planted a vegetable patch in a chatzar shutvim. If his shutv's animal damages his property, then his shutiv is going to be chayiv. So Zok the Gemara, Tiyufta de Rabbi Elazar, is this going to be a kasha on Rabbi Elazar? So let's just see the example of the pundik. Zok the Gemara, Bayiskodo Shiragilin Orchin Vachsenoim Lonunchon. It's a hotel. In his exercise, if one of the hotel guests damaged one of the other hotel guests, chayiv hashein v'regel. If it was a shein v'regel type of damages, then he'll be chayiv. We don't treat it like Rishus HaRabim, because in the Rishus HaRabim you're not mechuyev for the damages of shein v'regel. The hoyel v'einim yuchad l'vnei Rishus HaRabim. Since this is not the hotel lobby is not for public, it's for hotel guests. Therefore, b'stei achar karina be. It says ubir b'stei achar. You're only chayiv for shein regel if you do damages in somebody else's field. We consider your tenancy in a hotel that the common area is called ubir b'stei achar because you have sort of rights to use it as a guest at the hotel. So let's have a look. So Rabbi Elazar said before that Chatzar Shutvim, you're potter on shein v'regel. That's how this Gemara started. Rabbi Elazar told you potter on shein v'regel by Chatzar Shutvim, and the Chisda says you're chayiv. So freik the Gemara, it seems to be quite clear here that for Chatzar Shutvim you are chayiv on shein v'regel. So Tiyuf to Rabbi Elazar. This seems to be a brisa that makes it quite clear that Rabbi Elazar is wrong. And remember, the shaila was how to read in our Mishnah the words of Urishus HaNizik VaMazik. Do you read that together with Chutz Rishus HaMazik and that it's potter? Or do you read Urishus HaNizik VaMazik Kishehizik HaVaMazik? And Rabbi Elazar learns you read it with the Kishehizik HaVaMazik. In other words, that a Chatzar Shutvim, you'll be chayiv on shein v'regel. Either Brisa says here in the Pundik, you're not chayiv on shein v'regel. Amalach Rabbi Elazar, v'tizbra. What you think that this is the only brisa that discusses this subject? Masnisa mila pligi. You don't think there's a brisa who argues on the brisa that you just quoted that agrees with me? In fact, that it would be chayiv. But Tanya, we learned the brisa. Arba kalol yisayu Rab Shimon ben Elazar Omer ben Izak. Shimon ben Elazar told us that there's 4 general rules when it comes to the Los Nizak. Kol shehu rishus l'nizik v'loy l'mazik. If you have a rishus that's exclusive to the nizik and not to the mazik, chayiv b'koil. You'll be chayiv for everything, for nezek, shein, and regel. I'm sorry, for keren, shein, and regel. The Gemara is going to make a diak soon from this line. Shouldn't it say chayiv al hakoil? Chayiv al hakoil would indicate you're chayiv on all the different types of damages. Chayiv hakoil is mashma that I'm chayiv for the entire damage. So the Gemara is going to ask soon, shouldn't it have said chayiv al hakoil or not chayiv hakoil? And the Gemara is going to be medayik from that normally Karen, the first 2 times, when it's a tam, it only pays chatzi nezek. But if your animal comes into my property and damages my animal, or does damage to me, then even a tam would be chayiv nezek shalom. So that's what the Gemara is going to be medayik soon from chayiv hakoil. So not only is Karen shein and regel chayiv, of course, b'shus nezek, but Karen would even be chayiv everything, nezek shalom, even though it was a tam. The mazik v'lo the nizik. What if the property belonged to the mazik and not to the nizik? Potter mikol. Because as we learned earlier, I could say, Torcha b'shusi, my boy, what are you doing in my rishus? It's at your peril. Lazeh v'lazeh, kegoyin chatzar shutvim ve'abika. Notice how the example of a item close to a chatzar shutvim, the Bryce over here uses bika. Bika is like a valley where multiple people use it. If you notice earlier in the Bryce used chatzar shutvim va'pundik, an hotel. The Gemara is going to explain why we used a different example. So chatzar shutzim vabika potter ba ala shein valarega. You'll be potter on shein valarega. So you see quite clearly to support Rabbi Lozer that in fact shein and regel is going to be potter b'shus shel shutzim ala negicha.
A bit is a Shusarab. It's not Shusarab.
A bika is not a Rosh Hashanah. It's more like a. It's more like a. It's more like a place where multiple people have access to, but it's not a Rosh Hashanah.
Doesn't belong to anybody.
It could be belongs to multiple people. It's being compared to a chatzar shut.
Like a Chatzar Shutim, everybody has.
So let's wait for the Gemara. The Gemara is actually going to explain what the difference is. I'm sorry.
No, there's such areas.
Or own collectively, the people who have fields there would own the common area. Yeah. Okay. So Zok to Gemara, al hanagicha, val hanagifa, val hanashicha, val haravitza, yala ve'ita. And Avigdor knows what these things are because he was by the Chassidish Chasna last night, right? Tam. Actually, I actually said the first, not that. I said by a Litvish Chasna, the dancing has all of these obvious Nazikin. By a Chassidish Tish, it has these. But by the Chassidish dancing, it's actually it's very organized and no pushing at all. Yeah. Zok to Gemara, in other words, but a Chassidim, everyone's happy to be equal. Nobody has to feel like I belong on the inside circle. Everyone's very happy being on the outside circle. You see, it's not just a formation of dancing; it's a whole mindset. I'm the main man, you know. I'll be part of the item. Anyway, that's all my private rant. Al nagicha, val hanagifa, val hanashicha, val ravitza, val beita, tam mishalem chati nezek, a tam will pay chati nezek, mud mishalem nezek shalom. So here it's quite clearly saying that even though I'm sorry, that if in a chatzar shutvim, the tam pays chati nezek and the mud pays nezek shalom. What if it's a loyla zev, a loyla zev? So you would think it's no man's land; it doesn't belong to either one. But the maskana, the Gemara is going to end up saying loyla zev, loyla zev. Mean it doesn't belong to both of us. It only belongs to one of us, which is really a repeat of one of the two earlier cases. Because if it belongs only to the nizik, that's already a case listed. If it belongs only to the mazik, that's a case listed. Let's see what halach is, and we'll be able to figure out what it means. It doesn't belong to both of them, but it only belongs to one of them. So clearly, we're talking about a chatzor that belonged to the nizik and not to the mazik. Tam mishalom chati nezek. Mud mishalom nezek shalom. If you noticed earlier, we made a diak from chayiv bakoil that when a shor tam is mazik my animal in my rishus, even a tam pays nezek shalom because it's chayiv bakoil. Here the brasha clearly says that a tam would not pay nezek shalom even rishus hanizik. So that's something that we're going to have to deal with as well. Katani miyos. Let's go back and analyze this brisa that Rabbi Lozer was bringing in his support. Chatzara shutzin v'abika poter ba al hashein v'alaregel. So you see clearly support to Rabbi Lozer that by a chatzara shutzim you're chayiv on shein. But for the Gemara, Rabbi Lozer holds your chayiv, right? And he says kol shus l'nizik v'loy l'mazik. I'm sorry, we're talking about Chatzar Shutim. Chatzar Shutim Vabika, or Potter Baal Shein Valaregel. I'm sorry. Chatzar Shutim is Potter Baal Shein Valaregel. And what did Rabbi Lozer hold? I'm sorry? Rabbi Lozer held, one second. Oh no, Rabbi Lozer held Potter. Rabbi Lozer held it was Potter. My mistake. It was Rabbi Chisda who said it's Chayiv. Rabbi Lozer says it's Potter. And Rabbi Chisda says it's Chayiv. So the kasha was on Rabbi Lozer because we had a brisa that said it was chayiv. So Rabbi Lozer quotes a brisa that says that it's potter. I mixed up the shittas between Rabbi Lozer and Rabbi Chisda. So Rabbi Lozer al shein v'regel is potter b'chatzar shel. So now Rabbi Lozer says you can't ask a kasha me anymore. I have a support for my brisa. But then the Gemara says lamaisa we have a steer in brises. Is it a machlekes tanoim? Kasha adadi? Is it taka a steer in brises and a machlekes tanoim? Is there any way for us to possibly be able to explain that maybe they're talking about slightly different cases, and therefore it could be one Tana who holds in one case, you're chayiv, shein v'regel b'chatzar shel shutvim, and in another case, you would be plugged. Zok Gemara, I'm glad you asked, because we actually have a chiluk. Ki Tanya hi v'chatzar miyuchedes lozeh v'lozeh. We're speaking about a chatzar that's made for both people to use, bein leperis, bein l'shvar. What type of chatzar it is? It's a chatzar that we both own, and it's designed to be used both for Paris, but it's also the type of place that you could bring animals into. Animals belong in that place. That's why it's potter. So the brisa that says that it's potter is because animals belong in that space. Ahidir Rabbi Yosef, but the earlier brisa that says it's chayiv is bechatzar meyuchedes leperis, ve'enim meyuchedes l'shvarim. Yes, it's a chatzar shel shutf, but it's not the type of place that you're going to bring your animal into. Animals have no business being there. Therefore, if you bring your animal in, that's considered rishus hanizik, and you're going to be chayiv for the damages. To look at b'shein have a chatzar hanizik. When you're talking about shein, it's called a chatzar hanizik because your animal doesn't belong there. Yes, you might be my partner, but your animal doesn't belong there. And dekanami, the katani hacha dumya the pundik. Up there where it said chayiv, it was chatzar shutvim ba'pundik. Pundik is a hotel lobby. No one brings their donkey into a hotel lobby. I never saw a guy pull his car up into the hotel lobby. Doesn't belong there. There is a place where, although it's a chatzar shutvim, but your product doesn't belong, your animal doesn't belong there. Therefore, you're chayiv on shein v'regel. The katani hacha in our later mishnah it says dumi de bika. Bika is also a shared space, but in the bika you park your animals, and therefore you put on shein v'regel. Shema mina. Zok to Gemara. Maska for Reb Zera. Kivan the miyuchedes leperis. How could you possibly say that you're chayiv if I'm a chatzar shel shutfim? If I have equal rights to this chatzar, yes, I'm not allowed to bring my animal in there. But the fact is, I'm a partner here. So Frek Reb Zera. Kivan the miyuchedes leperis habeinu bir b'stei acher v'leka. The Torah makes a condition. When are you chayiv for shein v'regel if you are doing this damage in somebody else's field? The fact is, yes, your ox doesn't belong there, but I'm a shutov in this field. So how could this wouldn't qualify as ubir b'stei acher? It wouldn't qualify as ubir b'stei acher. So why would I be chayiv? Amalei Abaye said, I don't understand your kash. Kivan the enam yuchedes l'shvarim, since you have no business bringing an animal there, stei acher karinabe, it's called a stei acher. So this is an interesting discussion. Could you call it stei acher or not? So there's a lot of achronim that discuss what is the exact point of contention between Abaye and Reb Zera. So I'm going to mention what Rabbi Chanan Wasserman says. Rabbi Chanan Wasserman says in the Kovetz Shiurim a very interesting chiluk. Ubir b'stei acher. Is that a description of the nizik situation, or is that talking about the mazik situation? If ubir b'stei acher is talking about the nizik's situation, it's not a stei acher. I am an equal partner with him. But if we're talking about the mazik situation, the animal, if you're looking at the animal does not belong here. So therefore, it wouldn't be b'stei acher. So Reb Zera holds that you should look at the nizik situation, and the fact is, as far as these pears being planted here, they're planted in the chatzar shel shutfim. It's not b'stei acher. But Abaye says no. You look at the mazik if it belongs here or not. This animal, because of the damage, is foreign to this place. He doesn't belong. So Zok Gemara, now that we were able to say that these two brises are not arguing, maybe I'm a roy not pligi. Maybe Reb Chisda and Reb Elazar aren't arguing at all. Maybe when Reb Elazar said you're potter on shein v'regel, he was talking about a bikach, chatzar shel shutfim, where your animals belong there. And maybe when Reb Chisda said you're chayiv on shein v'regel, this chatzar shel shutfim, it was in a place where it didn't belong. And then there's no machlokes at all. Amar Lein, he says, you know what? As a matter of fact, maybe there's no machlokes between Reb Elazar and Reb Chisda after all. They're just saying halachas that apply in different places. You see how the details matter. And even if you want to say they're arguing, you could say they're arguing because you're Reb Zera ubeperuka dabai pligi. They could be talking about a case where animals don't belong there, but payers do belong there. And Reb Chisda, who holds your chayiv, holds that it's ubir b'stei acher like Abaye. Since animals don't belong there, you're going to be mechuyev for the shem v'regel. And Rebbe Elazar holds your potter holds ubir b'steacher means that l'gabe the nizik we have to have it has to be exclusively your field. And the fact is, I'm a partner in it, and therefore I wouldn't be chai. Beautiful, gufa. Let's now drill down into this brisa of arba klolis, because we're going to soon see that it might not actually be four, because we already discussed that the loy lazeh v'loy lazeh means chatzer shel nizik. So now you really only have three places: rishus harabim, chatzer shel nizik, chatzer shel mazik, and it's rishus harabim, chatzer shel nizik, chatzer shel mazik. But you don't have no man's land. We already deleted that. So that's what the Gemara is going to drill through now.
If it would say loy lazeh, ilazeh, it means doesn't belong to both, only to one.
Yeah, but the Gemara ends up saying it. So let's see the Gemara. Arba klolis hayar Reb Shimon ben Elazar. I remember this up. He said that there's four general rules. A, kol shel rishus l'nizik v'lo l'mazik chayiv b'chol. Break the Gemara. Ala koil lo katani doesn't say you're chayiv on all the different types of damages. Rather, ela chayiv b'koil b'kul nezik. You're chayiv in the full damages, even though normally it wouldn't be, because normally b'rishus harabim the damage of a tam would only be chatzi nezek, but if that damage was done in the rishus nezek, he pays nezek shalem. Mani, who shita does this follow? Reb Tarfani, the Omar Mishuna Karen b'chatzar nezek. Karen in the chatzar nezek, it's different than Karen b'rishus harabim. Nezek shalem mishalem. He always pays full pop. Ema seifa. Let's look at the seifa of this very brisa. Loy lazeh v'loy lazeh. Kigoyin chater she'ena shel shnei. A chater that doesn't belong to both of them. Chayiv ba'al Hashem v'al hareg. Frekemor, what is the case of my loy lazeh v'loy lazeh? Ilema loy lazeh v'loy lazeh klal ela da'acher. It belongs to a third party. V'haba'inan ubir b'ste'acher. But we require ubir b'ste'acher v'leka. You don't have that because you're not in the nizik's field. There's a whole kasha here in the Rishonim. I don't understand. What happens if Reuven plants Paris, whether rightfully or unrightfully, in Levi's field? So you might not have been allowed to plant Paris in Levi's field. And my animal goes and damages it. Am I mechuyev or not? So the Gemara says over here, Ubir b'ste'acher v'leka. L'gabe the mazik, it's very much b'ste'acher, because it's not in my field. But l'gabe the nizik could be, the Gemara is saying over here, that it's not your field. If it's not your field, if I damage something that you planted in somebody else's field, I'm not going to be mechuyev. That's the assumption of the Gemara. The Gemara the Rishonim talk about it. V'leka. El pshita, what does loy lazeh v'loy lazeh mean? Ela dechad. It belongs to one of these two, of course, the nizik. V'katani seifa. And what is the brisa paskin in this case regarding Karen? Tam mishalom chatzi nezik. Even though it's b'rishus hanizik. Umud mishalom nezek shalom. That's also in l'Rabbanon. The Amri mishuna Karen v'chatzar nezek. Chatzi nezek hu de mishalom. This will be consistent with the Rabbanon, who argues in Reb Tarfon and says even b'rishus hanizik, Karen, when it's a tam, only pays chatzi nezek. Fragt Gemara, Reisha Reb Tarfon to say for Rabbanon. Are you telling me this brisa, which doesn't indicate at all that we're changing teams, and in the middle it switches to the shita of the Rabbanon? So as a matter of fact, that's exactly what the situation is. The Shmuel Rabbi Yehuda. Shmuel told Rabbi Yehuda, Shinina, sharp one, Shavoik mas nisin. Forget about busting yourself over understanding this Mishnah, V'sa basroi, and just follow my approach. Reisha Reb Tarfon v'Sefer Rabban. Beautiful. Ravina Mishmei Rava Omar Kula Reb Tarfon. Maybe it's all Reb Tarfon. If that's the case, the first half of the brisa makes perfect sense. Pays everything. The shaila is the second case of Rishus HaNizik. Why do we say Tam Mishalom Chati Nezek? Umay loy lazeh v'loy lazeh. It means loy lazeh v'loy lazeh lePeiris elo dechad. Only one of us had the right to plant Paris there, but lazeh v'lazeh lishvor. But we both had a right to bring animals into it. So we had an interesting arrangement. You were the only one who had the right to plant there, but we both had the right to bring our animals there. So how does the dust settle? The lagabe shein, if you're analyzing shein, havale chotzer anizik, it would be considered a chotzer anizik, according to Abaye, right? According to Abaye, it's a chatzar anizik because no, it's not. According to Reb Zeir, it would be a chatzar anizik. Let's have a look. Let's have a look back to get this clear. Reb Zeir asked the kasha, "Kiven de miyuchedes leperis," since we both can bring peris there, but if only one of us could bring peris there, it wouldn't be b'steyacher. So for care, this is going according to Reb Zeir. The lagabe shein havale chatzar anizik. Lagabe shein it's chatzar anizik because I'm allowed to bring my animal there. So according to Bava, if I'm allowed to bring my animal, there shouldn't be a problem. According to Reb Zeir, it's chatzar anizik because only you have a right to plant pears there, and I don't. And lagabe keren havale rishus harabim. But lagabe keren is rishus harabim because we both have a right to bring our animals there. So therefore, Karen will pay chatzin nezek the first time and the second time. Why? Because it's rishus harabim. My shore is allowed to be there. Your shore is allowed to be there. But since only you're allowed to plant there, and I'm not allowed to plant there, according to Reb Zeir, this would not be called ubir b'steyacher. I'm sorry, this would be called ubir b'steyacher, and therefore there's a chiyuv to pay.
Why is it called again?
Because Reb Zeir holds that b'steyacher is totally in. Do you have a right to plant there or not?
Right.
So if you have a right to plant there and I don't, right, then it's a steyacher. Then I'm a chuyiv and shame.
Right. If that, again, I'm allowed to plant there, but the main chiyuv of Shem is because the Baal Hashor is not allowed to have.
That's not how Reb Zeir understands it. Reb Zeir understands it that what determines if it's steyacher or not is whether or not I also have a right to plant there. Because even in the case where my shor was not allowed to be there, Reb Zeir held that since I have a right to plant there, it's not steyacher. It's all totally in whether or not I also have a right to plant there. So it's not four anymore. There's only three reshuyos, right? There is no case of a loy lazeh, because there's also a case of shutfin. You're right. In fact, shloisha. There's only three reshuyos. Shloisha klolois ba'arba makomis. It's really three rules, but it involves four types of places depending on the ownership. So Zok Rashi, the Enkan Ela Gimel Dinam, B'Shus HaNizik Chayiv B'Koil, B'Shus HaMazik Potter Mikoil, and B'Chatzar Shutvin Chayiv B'Chatzi Nezek B'Keren, Upotter Al Hashem V'Regel. Aval Arba Makoim is saying She'ein Din and Shova, but there's still four places because depending on what the arrangement of the shutvis is, it will impact halacha. The yesh chachar shutvin shu chayiv bal Hashem could going to be chedes lechad lepeirs l'shneim l'shvarim, and there are some places where you'll play potter on chain if it's a chazar shutvin where we both have the right to plant it. Okay, now we're going to learn a mishnah that we're not going to understand one word of the mishnah. Shum kesef. Sorry.
Last four words on the block.
So Zok to Gemara, Zok the Mishnah, Shum Kesef, the assessment of Kesef. Rashi tells us right away, Kula Masnisim Mefarish Gemara. Don't even try understanding the Mishnah. It's a very cryptic Mishnah, and the Gemara is going to have to explain it. Shova Kesef, B'fnei Bezdin, in front of Bezdin, Val Piedim, B'nei Chayrin, free people, B'nei Bris, Jewish people, V'anoshim, B'chalal HaNezek, and women are also included in Nezek, V'anizik, V'amazik, V'tashlum. So it's very cryptic. Correct, Gemara. Let's start with the first word of the Mishnah. My Shum Kesef. What does the Mishnah mean when the Mishnah says Shum Kesef? Rabbi Yehuda, Shum Zeh Lo Yehei Ela B'Kesef. When you're making assessments of damages, there's no estimates and guesstimates. Everything has to be precise. Tanina Laha, the Tanur Rabbanan. This Mishnah is actually a support to a brisa that actually deals with a specific example. Para shazika talis, vitalis shazika para. A para walked down the street and got into a fight with a shmata. And the shmata did damage to the para, and the para did damage to the shmata. Ein oimim teitze para batalis. Don't say, okay, you got damaged, I got damaged, we'll just call it even and walk away because of a guesstimate, and they probably don't care. Rather, you have to analyze precisely the damage to the shmata. You have to analyze precisely the damage to the shor, and each one has to pay the other person, or whoever did greater damage has to pay the difference. So there's a lot of difficulty in the Rishonim here. Like, what's the Havamina? Why would you think I don't have to pay? So they talk about maybe people will be moichel, but it's the Havamina is a little bit shverlich over here because it's Pasha should have to pay the damage that you did. Where you do have an interesting discussion here is the Brisa and the way Rashi explains the Brisa. It seems that this happened in one case. A shor was walking down the street, got into a fight with a beged, and they damaged each other. But let's think about it. If the shor damaged the beged, how is he going to damage the beged? He trampled on it, right? He made it dirty. That's shein v'regel. That doesn't apply in Rishus Harabim. That only applies Grishus and Nizik. But the shirt damaging the shmata, damaging the shor, there's no chiv shein v'regel. There can only be altzkeret. So that had to be Rishus Harabim. So where are we standing? So Tosfos actually learns that maybe the parah that damages the talus is also a case of Karen. It was a red handkerchief, and the bull went after it. But Tosfos also suggests that it could be two separate cases. Either parah shazika talus, again, you don't just guesstimate. You have to be precise on the value of the damage, or a separate case of talus shazika parah. But one of the achronim comes up with I think the Marsha, whose Yortzat's coming up, has an ingenious situation. You could say it was a case where you only have the right to bring payers in, but we both have a right to bring shvarim in. So it's shaykh that in the same domain, you can have a chiyuv of Karen and a chiyuv of shein v'regel. Because Lagabi one halacha, it's considered a Rishus Harabim, and Lagabi the other halacha, it's considered a Rishus HaYachid, like we just learned. Yeah, that's right. The same type of damage that they did in the hotel lobby, like you mentioned earlier. Yeah, Zaktik Bar Viter. Shava Kesef. What is Shava Kesef? What is the Mishnah trying to teach us with Shava Kesef? The Tanur Rabban. Shava Kesef, Melamed, She'ein Bezdin Niskakin, Ela Nechosim, She'esh La Nachrayis. Where does Bezdin collect from when they're forcing a payment? From Karka, Nechosim, She'esh La Nachrayis. Avalam Kodem Nizik, V'Tavas Metaltlin. What if the Nizik grabbed Metaltlin of the Mazik? He seized him to make sure he has what to collect from. Then Bezin Goybin Loy Mehen. Then Bezin will even take from Metaltlin. Omar Shava Kesef, Melamed Shein Bezin is Kokin, Elul Lenechosim, Sheyesh Lamachrayis. From Shava Kesef in our Mishnah, it means that they only take Karka. Frekmar my mashma, where do you see in the word Shava Kesef that it means Karka? Anything is Shava Kesef. Omar Rabba Bar Ula, it's Dover Ashova Kol Kesef. It's a product that no matter how much you pay for it, we say that is its value. Mind you, Dover Shein Le'ino, something that's not subject to Eino. The halacha is if you buy a metaltlin from somebody and you overpay more than a sixth, the halacha is the mekach is bottled, because every metaltlin has a certain value, and if you overcharge, the mekach is bottled. But when it comes to karka, you can ask Donald Trump. You can evaluate something at anything you want. And by karka, it's valid because people pay anything. So therefore, something that's shava kesef, meaning no matter what you pay for it, we say it was worth it, that's referring to karka. So mine you davar she'ein le'no. If that's the case, avodah mushtaris nami ein la'hanayno. There's no dinay no when it comes to buying an eved and buying a star as well. Yet you can't collect from an eved and from a star. They only collect from karka. So that cannot be the reason why karka is called shava kesef. Elam Rabba Bar Ula, davar anikne bekesef. Something that you could buy with kinyan kesef. A property you could buy with kinyan kesef. Metaltlin you cannot buy with kinyan kesef. Frek Gemara avodim ushtaris nami nikne bekesef. You can buy an eved and a star as well with kinyan kesef. So it can't mean that either. Let me just finish this line. Amar Rabashi, shava kesef, veloy kesef. It's shava kesef only, but it's not actual kesef. The hani kulu kesef nimi. Metaltlin, we don't look at it as shava kesef. Metaltlin is kesef mamish. Why? Because metaltlin could be moved around, and you'll always find somewhere someplace where you could sell it and it has value. But karka, which is only in one place, it can't be moved. Only karka is referred to shava kesef because it's not a currency, because it has to be demanded in that area. But any metalton, we look at it like cash itself, you could barter with. Now, the Gemara just mentioned that you can be koine star with kinyan kesef. Rashi has trouble with that. So look at Rashi. It's quite interesting how Rashi approaches a Gemara. Rashi says, I'm looking at Rashi, Eved Nami Nikna Bekesef, Kedekatani Bekedushin. We learned the Kedushin that an Eved is Nikna Bekesef. We actually just learned that Gemara. But look what the Rashi says now. Shtara is the Niknas Bekesef, Lo Yispar Sheikh. I don't know. So Rashi doesn't say there must be a wrong Girsa, because if Rashi says I don't know, it means it's nowhere in Shas or anywhere else, because Rashi knew it. But Rashi, I don't know where it says that. Tosfos actually changes the Girsa. V'loy Gastin and Staris. They nicked the Meketzav El B'Basira. So it's interesting. Rashi, who knew Kol Kula, accepts what the Gemara said, even though I don't know where it is. Tosfos says I don't know where it is. It must be a mistake. It's just a different approach between Rashi and Tosfos.
First of all, this is the whole shit is Rashi. I have to explain every word that says it.
Right.
Tosfos has no problem. Rashi
Tosfos takes the gist of the Gemara.
I want to make sure that every word should. Okay, but what's my what the previous what's my as karka is mixed in the case of another thing not. So
Metalton, you cannot be koine metalton with kinyan kesef. You can only be koine karka with kinyan kesef.
And karka could be mixed in the case of and doesn't need any other.
No.
Can you?
No. Kesef, star, and chazaka are the three ways to be koine property.
But the Chacham didn't make that.
No, they only did it for metalton because Shema Yomu Chitcha Nitzra Kubalia. By a property, you don't have that. It means, imagine I sell you $100,000 worth of product, and you pay me for it, so you're a koine, but you didn't pick it up yet, still in my warehouse, and a fire breaks out of my warehouse, and I have the inventory that belongs to you, and I have inventory that belongs to me. Which inventory am I going to kill myself to save? My inventory. And I was like, oh, Dovi, I feel so bad. Your product got burned to a crisp. So by saying that you need to have Mashiach, eliminating kinyan kesef, I'm going to make sure to save yours as well. Zok to Gemara. Ramile, today would be the opposite. I'm sorry, Dovi, your stuff didn't get burned. You can't make an insurance claim. I have it. I'm going to make the insurance claim. Zok to Gemara. Ramile, Rabbi Yehuda, Bar Chinna, Rav Huna, Bar Rabbi Shua. Rabbi Yehuda, Bar Chinna, asked Rav Huna, Bar Rabbi Shua. Tana we learn. Shava kesef, Malamich in Bezin is kokin el nechosim sheish lemachrayis. If Bezin has to make a seizure of property to pay, they take property. But Tanya, we learned, we had the shiloh before, Yosy v'l'Rabbi Shava Kesef afilu subin. I thought they could even take metalton. Zok to Gemara, halcha b'maya askinam b'yasmei. We're speaking about the Yisoimim. Yisoimim, it's metaltla the yasmei, are not meshubit to a bachoiv. And therefore, it's only karka that you could take. But if it was not a yosem, a regular person, before they seize property, seizing property is a last resort. Before Bezin will seize property, they'll actually seize other assets first. Only for a yosem do they have to seize property because there is no other option. In Kadam Nizik v'tafas, what if the Nizik came and he grabbed a watch that belonged to the mazik, so to protect himself? Then Bezin goyim lamen. Bezin could be goyim. But Yasme, if it's speaking about Yisoimim, they should take that watch away. Amai Bezin goyim lamen. Why would Bezin let them keep the watch? They should give the watch back. And they'll take karka if there is any karka available. You know when the Nizik seized that watch? Before the father died. From the father, he had a right to seize the metaltli. And therefore, it will work even though afterwards the father died. The next thing the Mishnah says is b'fnei bezdin. What does that mean? Imagine someone, his ox did a lot of damage. He knows now he's going to be liable to a great big payment. So he quickly sells all his property and he hides all the money. And now he says, I have no assets. Shmamina loiva umochrin achasa the achach bola bezin ain bezin goyim lamehen. Are you actually telling me that if he quickly liquidates his properties before he goes to Bezdin, he's going to get away with it? So any person who borrows money and he sees that the Malva is pressing on him and wants to collect, he'll quickly sell all his properties and say, I have no assets left. That's not true. We know you can go after Lakuchais, right? We know that even if you sell your property, the Shibud makes it, you can go after Lakuchais by Mazik as well. Ella Prat Lebezin and Yoitis. All it means to say is when you're assessing a property, you can't just have any lightweight dayanim. The dayanim who are paskening on the knas, as Rashi says, Ella lahachi asamas nisin, the bezdin mumchin done in the knasos v'loy bezdin adyotis. Even though most of the damages are mum and they're not knas, but the chatzi nezek of Karen is knas, and that's what the Mishnah is telling us. Is in order to get a psak halacha of knas, it has to be a bezdin of mumchin, not a bezdin of adyotis. Al piyedim. If someone's moider right away, my shar a tam shtois, he's potter. Dafka if it's Adam that bring the information to the bezdin. It makes sense. If you hold moider b'knas v'achach is chayiv, what are you going to do? So Gemara, sefer tzrichalei. Maybe all it means to say when it says al pi edim, it's not a halach in of al pi edim. Al pi edim, what type of edim do you need? Al pi edim b'dei chorin b'dei bris. You have to have kosher edim b'dei chorin l'mutei avodim b'dei bris l'mutei of the kachavim. And we have two dots coming, so we might as well run for it. But tricha, why do I need the Mishnah to tell us that both avodim and goyim are not good? I should know one from the other. Utricha. Yashmin and Eved, if I was only told that an Eved is not kosher to be an aid, he has no yichus at all. It says, Am hadoim al chamor. He's like a chamor, he has no yichus, no genealogy. Avol nochi d'yesh l'yachas. Nochi has yichus, you find in the Navi lists the lineage of Goyim. Aim aloi, maybe his aiders will be good. Yashmin and Nochi, mishum l'shayich b'mitzvahs. A Goy has no shayich to mitzvahs. Avol Eved is shayich b'mitzvahs because he's mechuyev in mitzvahs k'isha. Aim aloi, maybe his this is good. Tricha. So the Mishnah has to tell us that both type of edim are going to be possible. So interesting enough, we have the shayla of moed v'knas v'achach bo edim is potter, right? Rav holds moed v'knas v'achach bo edim is potter. Shmuel holds moed v'knas v'achach bo edim is chayav. So there's a famous kasha. We do tshuva. When we do tshuva, we're moed v'knas. We're moed v'knas. We're doing tshuva. We're taking chadas and b'shati. The problem is, there's Adam saying testimony of exactly what we did wrong. So the problem is, what does tshuva help? According to Shmuel, moed v'chnas, v'achabo Adam is chayiv. So how does it help the tshuva? Okay. I'm thinking with melitza. So I heard over from somebody, the teretz is, that's why when on Yom Kippur when we daven, we say, v'salach l'aveinenu. Finish the sentence. V'salach l'aveinenu. Kiravu. We don't pass like Shmuel. We pass like Rav. Moed v'knas v'achach bo edim is potter. So male tshuva works.
So
Have a wonderful day.
So